Hi, my name is Mohammed Mohammed, and today on the Branding Deep Dive podcast with host Ahmed Cheema and Abdul Mannan, we're going to be talking about Bellroy, the brand, what drives their tribe, what drives their loyalty, and how you can incorporate those lessons into your brand.
So for the audience, can you real quick just give us an introduction of who you are, and what you're doing, that kind of thing?
My name is Mohammed Mohammed. I'm a current farm student right now. I'm in my third year of pharmacy school. When I say farm, people think like I'm farming, like plant picking, harvesting. But like, so I just want to mention the pharmacy school. So yeah, I'm third year, and I'd say I'm a brand appreciator. I wouldn't say an enthusiast like you, Chimo, but appreciator. Like I like to appreciate brands and
hmm
what they do.
Yeah, I think it's really good that you made that clarification. I really was under the impression that you were a farmer. So
A Bellroy
I-
farmer.
you,
yeah.
you'd be surprised. A lot of people think that you know.
So to give the audience a little bit more context on like what we're talking about today and why uh, our friend Mohammed is on, we call him Momo. So the reason why he is on is because we're talking about Bellroy today. So Bellroy is a company that specializes in the production of leather wallets, bags. What else do they make, Momo? Like the
Leather
stuff.
wallets, slings, bags, phone cases, things like that. Basically, carry materials, carry items,
Yep.
purses, things
And
like
the
that.
reason why we asked Momo to be on today is because for both me and Abdul Mannan, the person who introduced us to this brand was Momo. So it only felt right that we have Momo on to talk about this brand because uh, he was the first one that introduced us to it. So, Momo, I want to start with your own journey. How did you let's start with how did you become aware of Bellroy and what's your journey as a Bellroy enthusiast?
So I would say in high school, and Bellroy, the company started in 2009, 2010. And I was in high school, and I just saw one of their ads, the Slim Your Wallet ad. And I was like interested because I was like, I don't have a wallet because I was broke. I just had my high school ID and whatever. So I didn't really need a wallet. But my dad had a wallet. I'm like, his wallet can use some slimming. So I just looked at their ads and then I went onto their website and I'm like, this is pretty cool. And then I looked at their prices. I'm like, I can't afford this as a high school student. But it always stayed in the back of my mind. And then I would visit their website periodically, see if like they made anything I could afford. And then eventually, once they didn't make anything I could afford, but I just started making more money. So then I started buying into the brand, and then I really believed in the quality that they have and kind of their story. So then I became really enthusiastic about carry items and things like that. And then that's why I shared it with you guys because you guys are also like enthusiasts of these type of things. So yeah.
What was the medium of the advertisement that you first saw it?
It was their website. I don't remember if it was Facebook or YouTube. I think it might have been YouTube. It was like
Mm.
it was just like they had like the stop motion video and the sliders, and it just made the fat wallet look so dumb. And you're like, who would have that? And I'm like, man, I don't want to grow up and have that wallet. So let me look at their website. And
Right.
yeah, so it was just mix of like me looking at the website. It kind of stuck to my mind, even though I didn't buy the product. That like,
Yeah.
oh, this is pretty cool. So let me keep
That's
an eye on them.
that's crazy because they got you while you were young. You
Yeah,
weren't primarily their target audience, but they're like, hey, this guy's about to become a working professional. I'm gonna say he's like, you were probably high school,
high
maybe
school.
just
Yeah,
getting
yeah,
into a job. They're like,
yeah.
hey, he's almost meeting our criteria of our target audience. So we're gonna
I don't
go
know. I don't
start
know
him early.
how. I don't know how it came. Maybe I was looking for wallets. I don't know with
hmm
what money. I had like $20 to my name probably every week. But like, so I
Right.
don't know. But they got me, and I've been kind of in their brand ever since.
I want to say, as I was doing the research for Bellroy, I started getting a lot of Bellroy ads, and so I did a little bit more research on the ads, and some of the ads that I got were like 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, and they're still using those ads because they're just such good ads, and they're
They're
not,
really good. Yeah.
yeah, they're not like they don't only work at one period. You know what I mean? They're just crafted so well that you know, you
They're
could just run the
timeless.
same ad like
They're
10 years from now, it'd
timeless.
probably
Yeah.
still be good. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, it didn't have a trope or anything. It was timeless. I think it was like an ad that you just like. That's an ad, you know.
yeah. So let me ask you this: what got you about this company, right? So I'm sure there's other wallets out there. There's other brands out there that are also advertising. What about this company stood out to you?
So there's a couple things that really stood out to me. The number one thing was how cool it looked, right? And then it just that gets everybody just the first the visual appeal, and then kind of the subtle design aspects that they teach you about in their products. They're like, yeah, we made this pull tab to make accessing cards easier, and we minimized the leather. And you're sitting like, wow, they put a lot of work into this wallet. This is not just a regular wallet. So then I'm just like, wow, this is pretty cool. So then that's kind of what got me into it, is that like they explained why their products cost so much. Like they're like, yo, this is high quality leather, natural, well designed. It's gonna last you a lifetime. We have a 3-year warranty on it. Like, oh, they got me, and I was like, okay, all right, you know, I'm sold on the quality of the product. But until I got the product in my hand, then you know it was like hook, line, sinker, like whatever fishermen people say. But like they got with that first product, and after that I've just been getting more and more of their products because that first product was such good quality. Like it wasn't just marketing, advertising, and then they didn't deliver. They did deliver on the promises of good quality, and then that led me to become a bigger fan of their products.
You mentioned the Slim Your Wallet campaign. Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's dive into that. What was that about?
It was basically a wallet like against the prototypical dad wallet, like the super thick wallet, right? And it was a visual campaign, and it was an interactive campaign. You'd go on slimyourwallet.com. You're like, I want to slim my wallet, and then you look at their wallets, and there was like a slider on their website where you slid, like you put 1, 2, 3 cards. This is how many cards I have, and then you put it into like they have 2 wallets being compared side to side, the classical wallet and their wallet, and you add 7 cards to the classical wallet, it's already super thick, and then you add 7 cards to their wallet, it barely increased, you know, in thickness, and it maintained that slimline profile and that like that aesthetic, that minimalistic aesthetic, right? So it was just showing you like, yo, this what your carry could look like, but it's looking like that, you know. So it was like a very personal attack if you had that type of wallet. It was like, why are they coming at my wallet like that? And then they'll show you, like, for example, they had to add somebody, like when the people who put their wallet in their back pocket and it's super thick, so they're sitting uneven, like the back pain and how stupid it looks and things like that. So it was that was just the ad. And then after you click Slim Your Wallet, and then it takes you to their website, right? So then you're looking at their wallets. You don't even know. You're just thinking, oh, these are wallets that will slim my wallet down. And then you're checking out their line, like, oh, they have a lot of colors. They have a lot of good videos describing their wallets and good ads. And you're like, wow, this is pretty cool. Next thing you know, you're just spending time on their website.
Now, did you say you have their wallet now?
I do have their wallet. No. Yeah.
So have you like compared your old wallet, put in the same amount of cards, and size wise, you confirmed that their wallet are slimmer?
Bro, like this. I don't remember my old wallet. Like,
Oh,
like I got that wallet, throw it out, bro. Put the new cards in. I'm like, this is fine, like perfect. So like they have different types of like they have wallets that are still on the medium end. They're not like super slim, right? So that's the wallet I started out with. It was like the note sleeve, right? So it was like it still had a space for cash and things like that. So it still made it a little bit thicker.
Yeah.
And then after like 3 years of having that wallet, I got like their slim sleeve wallet, and it was like, because that one aged, it aged fine, it was still usable. It wasn't the color that I wanted because I got it as a gift. So then I bought into the slim wallet, and then it's very slim and it's very usable, and that it's the design intuition that kind of gets you, like the little things that they think about and that they tell you that they thought about. So then every time you're using it, you're like, they did think about this. This is intentional. You know, it was intentional design, and I'm like, and it makes you appreciate the little things, and it makes you a design enthusiast.
Yeah.
You know?
So Abdul Mannan, I want to make a point here. Do you remember I think maybe 2 weeks ago, we were talking to one of your friends, and we came across he mentioned the story of the Dropbox Platypus. You remember that?
Yeah.
So I think that and this, like this Slim Your Wallet campaign, and that is like really good examples of just showing what your product does.
Yeah.
What it was is Dropbox was having a lot of trouble in the early days trying to raise money for their, this startup. And the idea, if you guys, for the audience that's listening that doesn't know what Dropbox does, is that it's essentially like Google Drive nowadays, but this is before Google Drive, where you can store things on the internet from one computer, then you can go to another computer, you can download it and still have it, right? So this was this new idea, and people just didn't realize that it was an actual need that they had. Like people didn't realize that I need this, you know what I mean? So the ad that he used was a person using a Windows computer. He uploads a picture of a platypus to Dropbox, and then he goes to a Mac computer and he downloads it and he's able to edit it. And then he uploads it back to Dropbox, and then he's able to download it again from a Windows computer. So he's able to go between platforms and use that image, right? Using Dropbox. And so with Slim Your Wallet, this is another thing where like, if I just asked someone, do you need a slimmer wallet? I'm sure they'll be like, no, I'm good. You know what I mean? But like when you see, if you go to the website, it's still there, slimyourwallet.com, you actually, the slider adds cards as you go, and it'll show you how much fatter the wallet's getting and how much theirs is staying slim. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that is such a genius way of really showing your product. And then that's something not just where like you take an audience or whoever's seeing it, they may not even realize they have the problem, but when they see it, they're like, oh yeah, that's a big problem.
That's a big problem. Yeah. That's
You know what I mean?
exactly.
And-
Yeah.
It's
100%.
like when you're designing, you either design for solutions or you design solutions for problems that are apparent, or you design solutions for problems that people don't realize they have. And that's like a classic example of what they're doing there. What's so interesting, Momo, that you said is that they show you. So when you're designing for problems that people don't know they have, you have to kind of you be a little bit more intentional in showing that design. And that's what you see Bellroy doing here. And it's so interesting because I was like reading an interview with them and they're talking about, what's your product about and stuff. And they say that their product is for people who live purposeful lives, people who are like intentional with their lives. And so that is kind of like their target audience. And so in order to connect with them, they got to show just how intentional they are with their product. And I feel like, I feel like you would describe yourself as a pretty intentional person. I know you're not frugal, but you're also not like, a little bit excessive. But you're like just in the middle. I feel like would that be how you describe yourself there?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely what I would describe myself as, and that's really why I'm like, why do I have this? And like what Cheema said, it was like they made you like you didn't even know you had a problem, but now that you know, I'm one of those people that if I know something's wrong, I can't ignore it anymore. When I found out my wallet is stupid thick, it is, it doesn't look nice. I'm like, man, that's a problem. I'm gonna have to fix that problem. So how do I fix it? So that's what Bellroy came in. And then it's really like they pseudo created a problem, right? Like Apple, what Apple does, for example, is that they actually create a problem. They get rid of the headphone jack, sell you the AirPods, right? Like they create a problem, sell you the solution. But what Bellroy did is like they kind of incepted in your mind that you have a problem, right? Because like up to that point in my life, I just thought wallets were supposed to be thick. They could carry as much as possible. And all the like you should put your receipts in there. You should just stuff it, and then you throw it out every once in a while, right?
Yeah.
But then it made you think about like, okay, like is that how something that I carry in my pocket every day? Is that how I should utilize it?
Yeah.
I wanna dive in on this a little bit more. So there are companies you see out there that I'm gonna use the example of Quibi, right? You guys know what Quibi is?
No.
Momo, do you know?
I know Quibi, like is that the toothbrush or that?
No, Quibi. Am I saying the name wrong? You know the like Netflix for 7 minutes.
Oh, that garbage? Oh yeah. I downloaded that app. Yeah. It was garbage, but yeah, go ahead.
So there are companies and people, and they spend a lot of time, effort, money into creating a product that they think is solving a problem.
Yeah.
Right. When in reality, like the market shows that this really wasn't a problem.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, it was garbage.
It's like they're like, hey, we're creating a product for that like little commute, in between time, and you know, it turns out like, who's going to pay for this when you got TikTok? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just not, and like,
And the problem with that, sorry to cut you off. And the problem with Quibi is what they did. It was just they literally get full length movies. They produce full length movies and just split it up into 7-minute sections. So then like, okay, here it is. So I just ended up binging the episodes. You know, like I was like, let me finish the movie. Like, and then it did not make any sense that it was short. Like, I just felt like, okay, let's skip to. I just watched more ads. So and then at the end they're like, oh, your trial expired. You want to renew? I'm like, uninstall. Like, it was just that quick of a decision. It didn't solve any problem.
Yeah.
So the point I want to make here is that, you know, some people just seem to get what the problem is and they're able to solve the problem. Whereas other people, you know, it seems like it's more of an idea that they had. And I'm not saying Quibi is like this. It's just the first thing that came to my mind. But like, it's like someone had an idea and it's like, wouldn't this be a great idea? And it's not really solving a problem, right? And the money and all the stuff that they're funneling in is not necessarily based on customer feedback that they're getting, but it's just like, hey, this is a sick idea I had. So I know,
or it might have been a problem. It might have been a problem, but just like not enough of a problem, you know?
Yeah,
I could see how they're like trying to tackle the idea of, you know, having short attention spans, whatever. They might have done some sort of field research, but like you said, the customer feedback wasn't there. And so I feel like they kind of.
And so the point I want to make with Bellroy here is that even before they made their first product, Momo, can you talk about how they were able to understand that this was a problem, and they already actually had a tribe before they launched Bellroy. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so the tribe, the way you describe it as tribe, is known as Carryology. So what they did is they started a website for like daily carry items or essential daily carries or whatever. So purses, bags, things that you carry. And they started like it was a discussion forum. People were discussing and talk about the bags they have and the little design details that they had. And people were like, "Man, this wallet it doesn't work for my lifestyle." Things like that. And then they knew they had they found like a niche, a problem, a niche market. And then now this website is still running, right? It's a website that talks about bags and what they carry, but it reviews all types of bags, even competing brands that undercut Bellroy, even or brands that sell their products for a higher price than Bellroy. But it reviews all their products. But the best thing about that is that it makes sure that when their product releases, it's gonna go to Carryology, and then it's like a direct to consumer marketing. Like those are the people that will be interested in paying $100, $120, $40, $50 for a bag, you know, or a bag that's not design or anything. It's just a functional bag, because those are people that are interested in the design aspects, things like that. So they created that before they even started their company, and then they based their company kind of on that, like that community of people who are minimally carrying and people who are into design and people who are functional, intentional, and people like they care about the environment as well, like those type of people, you know?
So two things here. Number one is a lot of times people see something like this and they're like, wow, that was so creative. That's such a genius idea. And I think the distinction that we have to make, and we have to make sure that people understand, is that creativity and genius doesn't necessarily come from, you know, some guy having a dream. It comes from just listening and understanding who your customers are, who your target audience is, and then really asking questions, getting feedback, and understanding what the problem really is. Once you know what the problem is, it's easy to come up with solutions. You can come up with potential things to actually, you know, we know the problem is that our wallets are too big, it's bulging out of our pockets. Now, how do we, you know, come up with solutions? That is like, that's the second step of that is easy. But when we're just kind of in the blind, you know, creating new products without understanding what the problem is first, then it's just going to be like a, you know, shooting at a dartboard with like a blindfold on or something. Like, you know, you might actually get something that's really awesome, but chances are you're probably going to miss by a long shot. Second thing I wanted to talk about is Seth Godin in his book Tribes. He mentions the two characteristics of a tribe. So number one is a shared interest, and number two is a way to communicate. And this Carryology blog that you're talking about hits both of those, right? So before they even launched their first product, they had a tribe. They had people that are willing to pay money to spend to fix this problem, right? The shared interest was everyday carry things, wallets, bags, all the things that Bellroy makes.
Yeah.
That's their shared interest, right? And there's the second thing is a way to communicate, a blog, discussion post. That's how you communicate online. So you could be in Australia, America, England, wherever you are, you can still communicate with the other members of your tribe, right? So I just wanted to make sure that we touch those points and make sure that we hit on the reason why Bellroy has been able to really scale so fast is because of their understanding of their tribe and the problems and the solutions they're bringing to the table for their tribe. They're serving their tribe. They understand what the problem is, and as a company, they're there to serve that tribe.
Yeah. And I think another thing that they do within their tribe is that, like, you feel like like Apple does this, right? I feel like that's why I compare Bellroy and Apple a lot, because they do some of the like similar things, and Apple's obviously one of the best companies around. Really something they do is like you feel like when you bought an Apple product, you're buying into that tribe, and it's premium, it's special, it's unique, right? That's what Apple sells, even though it's like the most popular phone, right? But like you feel like, oh, like this is this is Apple, right? So when you see somebody else with an iPhone, oh, is that newest iPhone? Like even when it first came out with just the iPod, like I had an iPod when I was a kid, and other kids didn't have iPods, and it was like such a unique thing,
Mhm.
So what Bellroy does is like, it's obviously a luxury kind of carry thing. But what they do is like when you buy into that, and then you feel like, oh, this is unique, this is special. So it makes you even like prize it more and give it more value. Do you get what I'm saying? That it's a unique carry item.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed is that you mentioned them to be like a luxury brand, but I was reading a little bit about them, and they say that what space they call themselves to be in is what's called like the step up phase or step up space, meaning that there's like low tier economic price wallets space, and then there's like luxury brand space, and they call it the step up space. And what's interesting is that, again, going back to like their brand values, which is like intention and purpose. You notice that like some of the more higher end brands, like I don't know, like Louis Vuitton or Tommy Hilfiger or Ralph Lauren, their wallets are not anything special. They're just wallets with the brand value attached to them, right?
100%, yeah.
But then Bellroy is like, hey, we're going to be a little bit more intentional. We're going to serve this space right here, and so they can be called a luxury brand without having that super premium price on them, which is exactly what they're going for.
Yeah. What another thing Bellroy does is that like again, I keep using the Apple example, is that they stay in different categories of spending, right? So obviously they have that step up brand, but they also have some of their products is called, so for example, they make premium editions of some of the carry items where they're like the same function and same design, but they add some premium leather, some premium aesthetics. They maybe partner with other carry like brands, and then they put that stamp on it, and they charge more for probably like you can get the same function out of their other products, but it's that premium edition, So they're able to get that step up market and then still have a foot in the luxury market. So they're they have feet in both pools, I guess.
Almost like adding new features to their product, like, oh, you want cash available? I noticed their website, so their wallets, they have like card only, and then card and cash, and then like something above that. So it's not just like premium, but it's also like functionality tiers.
Yeah, like if like you're super minimalist, you don't even carry cash, like we got this for you. But
that's me, man. You know what my wallet is?
What?
Like my credit card. No, my credit card. That's it. My credit card on my phone.
Oh, you're wild, bro.
I don't like carrying anything. I just feel like anytime I feel something in my pocket, it's just like too much for me. So I haven't found anything minimalist enough. Right. And then one of my friends found out, and he's like, dude, you at least need to carry identification in case something happens. I'm like, yeah, that's true.
The Bellroy phone case.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that.
They do have that phone case where like you can add a bunch of things. But for me, like I carry a lot of cards, and the challenge for me was trimming down actually when I got the Bellroy. It was like, how'd I get rid of this card? I'm like, bro, do I even go to the library and print something there? That was like a question I had to ask. I don't use the library printer, so why do I have this card? So I had to like get rid of those cards, and it made me step into that more intentional space, right? And my backpack used to be just a mess of like,
That's amazing.
I'm just stuffing things in there, like,
Yeah.
chargers, whatever, and I'm pulling out. Now when I put things away, I'm like, okay, like, because their backpack, it's not gonna take. I can't stuff in there. Like, I have to organize it and put it in there.
Do they have a video about how to do that, like a tutorial?
On like, how do you, like, I mean, all their videos, all their products, it's like,
They
it
kind of
shows you how you fill it up, right?
Uh-huh.
So it has people putting shoes in it and putting things, and you're like, and it still carries slim, like it's the slim line profile or whatever, and you're like,
Right.
I could carry that and still maintain that profile, right? It's again, it's one of the, it's like I think a prime example of like how they got me with their marketing and their advertising, right? And and I think their media was the biggest thing, because I'm a visual person as well, so I needed to see somebody else using that product. Because basically what they did is they eliminated that third-party process of, oh, you have to look up a review like Bellroy wallet review. What they did is like, oh, they're giving you a visual of somebody using it right there, or on Carryology, a website that they own. They're giving you a review, and the review is not going to talk trash about their product. It might point out some things, but it just, again, like one of those things where they eliminate extra steps to make sure you're interested in the product.
So Momo, I want to transition here. There's a couple more things, more brand specific, that I want to talk about. But before I do that, I did want to mention one thing. And there's this quote that I came across while doing the research for this, is that people don't care about you until they know you care about them. Right. And what's interesting about Bellroy is that they're showing that they care about their target audience by creating these products creating these products that are serving those people. Right. So by listening to their feedback, and I remember you mentioned a story about how they got feedback from you. I was wondering if you could share that, because you're actually that target audience, and then they're actually listening to you, taking that feedback, and then taking action based on that. And so, do you remember that?
Yeah. So they sent me a survey to my email, and I mean, I'm not gonna fill out surveys in my email.
It's a big deal, man.
No, it's not a big deal, but they said I'm assuming they sent it to all their customers. But I was like, yo, I might get a coupon or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, I might get something out of it. And they don't have coupons, they don't have sales, they don't have anything. Like, it might be worth it to fill it out. So I started filling it out, and it was actually intriguing questions. So like, which one of these pictures do you think speak to you the most, right? And they have a bunch of different vibes, where it's like a picture of like a young professional workspace with their bag, or like they have their Apex line, which is like for hiking and extreme weather and things like that. Like, they have a picture of in the mountains and things like that. Which one of these pictures speak to you the most? And you pick that, and which one of these people would you like to have dinner with, right? Like Jeff Goldblum, like Marcus Brownlee, MKBHD, or whatever. And like, they had all these surveys, and I'm picking, I'm like, okay, I do this. And then like, I couldn't go back on one. I'm like, damn, I want to change my mind. And and then I finished. I'm like, why am I so interested in the survey? And I finished the survey, and it was like, okay, it's pretty interesting. But then when I get back like a month later or something like that, it's like, hey, we've listened to your feedback, and this is what you guys think. And they had this like maybe 13, 14 page graphic of the demographics of their customers and how they answered the questions, right? So like, oh, like 50% of you think that, carry minimally, and then 25% of you just throw everything in their bag. And what it did is it made me feel like I'm part of the brand. That's number one. Number two, they got valuable information, feedback on their brand, and like target, like I'm telling them what I like, right? So they're improving their targeting advertising. And I'm like, how? And then after I read that, I'm like, damn, I'm such, like, how did I fall for that? But it was like so well done, and it was so clever that I felt like I was like, let me do the survey. I might get something out of it. They didn't tell you were gonna get anything, but I was like, let me do it. And then at the end, I'm like, this is pretty cool. So it made me even want to share like the survey with people. And it was interesting how they got me to that extent,
Yeah. So really taking the time to listen to your customer shows that you care about them, right? And then sharing the results, that just shows that a company at least cares about what you have to say. You know what I mean? Like, you took the time to fill out the survey. We're going to share this with you because you took the time out to actually do this. So thank you for that. So next, I want to talk about the brand platform, and then within brand platform, there's 4 things I want to talk about. Number 1 is the name. Number 2, identity. Number 3, the atmosphere overall. and number 4 is the user interface, user experience design. So let's start with the name. Momo, can you shed some light on what Bellroy is, what it means, what's the story behind the name?
So like the name Bellroy derives from they're Australian-based company, right? And it derives from the towns of Bell Beach and Fitzroy, which are towns in Australia, and this is where the company has offices, right? So that's kind of how they decided to come up with that name. They combined the names of those two cities that they had offices in, and that just became their name. So it's just a simple name. It didn't have a previous meaning that they could attribute it to, and I think what that allows is that you can create and like you're specifying a meaning to that name now. You're not held by, for example, if they named it like Slim Wallets, or then they're like held down to wallets forever, right? Or things like that. What they did is that they made a new name, kind of that tells their story, but then kind of made like a whole new meaning to that name.
Another quote I came across was, when people ask what the name means, have a good story to back it up. People nowadays want more than a product. They want to connect with your brand at an emotional level. So what's cool about Bellroy is that they have, by naming it these two cities in Australia, they have, number one, they have a story to talk about when someone asks, what does Bellroy mean, right? Like what is Bellroy, right? And they can talk about their heritage, how they're from Australia, how this is a startup that we started over here, these two small cities in Australia. And it's that same story that I'm sure we've heard before, that, small town people working on an idea and started to grow big, that kind of thing. And so you get bought into the vision and the story of the company, and it starts with the name, right? So really important when you are deciding on a brand name that you don't just pick any random thing that comes in your head, right? Momo Design Services. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
It keeps you limited.
Yeah, you might have a good reason for that, and in that case, that's fine. But if it's just your name, like, let's.
Yeah.
I challenge the audience to get a little bit creative with how they're picking their names.
I mean, the name, for example, like there's companies that just use the name Louis Vuitton, Marc Jacobs, right? But those people, you're buying the product because that person has done so many great things. If I make Mohammed Mohammed Industries, nobody knows what I did or who I am, and then I'm selling my personal brand, which means nothing to anybody, right? So then really it kind of depends. Sometimes I think a name can be utilized. It depends if you're, for example, like if Marcus Brownlee, you guys know MKBHD, right? If he decide like his brand is his personal name, so MKBHD, and then that's his website and that's his brand, that's what he's known as. But that's what he became famous for, right? That's what he sells things based on. But like if you're a brand unknown startup, you shouldn't name it. Like if, for example, if Apple's like Steve Jobs companies, like then like he was unknown at the time. He was a college dropout. Nobody knew who he was. So I think you make a very good point.
So listen, aspect. The distinction here is essentially there's two things you can do, right? If you have a company like Mohammed Mohammed Industries or MKBHD, the reason why the name has some weight now is because he's done over 1,000 videos, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's put work in so that people associate tech videos and stuff like that with his name. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so same with Louis Vuitton, Marc Jacobs, like whatever, Ralph Lauren, like they've designed products at such a high level that people start to associate like, hey, this is like going to be amazing because this person did it. Right. Yeah. So you have to have a body of work if you're going that route. Now, if you're just a startup company, you don't really have that rep. I think it's probably a good idea to think about which way you want to actually position yourself, because there are definitely merits to going both ways. But my challenge to the audience is just think about what the name is, and it should be, if you decide to go with your own personal name, that should be a deliberate decision you made, not just because I couldn't think of anything. You know what I mean? Which is, I feel like happens a lot.
Yeah.
One of the challenges I know you face a lot, especially in your space of, website design and stuff, is, making sure you have the right URL, the code for the website.
The domain
name. I was reading, the domain name. And so I was reading that Bellroy actually had a challenge of coming up with domain names that matched their previous brand names before they came up with Bellroy. And the solution for that, what they found was mix and matching. And so if you guys, listeners, all two of you, as we usually say, if you're having a problem finding a domain name for your brand, you might even think about switching your brand name and trying mixing and matching. And so they mixed Bell's Beach, the city, and Fitzroy, like you said. And what's also interesting is that, even though they seem to have picked like two arbitrary places that happened to be where their business started, they looked at the history of the cities themselves. And one of the things I was reading about is Bell's Beach is apparently a more nature-oriented city. I think it's like near the coastline or whatever. And then Fitzroy is like more suburban, more like progressive, industrial type of thing. And so their brand, they say, is like a mix of both of those cultures, where it's for the people out in nature, it's for the people that are traveling and journeying, but it's also for the people that are in that like professional space and environment.
Abdul Mannan, it's really interesting that you brought that up. Let's talk about brand personality or brand character a little bit. In the Bronco podcast that they have been putting out, the last episode actually goes through the design, or the redesign, I should say, of the new Bronco. And so they had this session with this designer, and the challenge that he had for his team was, let's find 2 words that we're going to use as the personality of this new Bronco. And the 2 words that they came across for the new Bronco were trusted and carefree. So everything that they want their brand to communicate stemmed from these 2 words. We want to make sure everything comes back to the Bronco is trusted and is carefree, which is, if you look at the build of the Bronco, is like, it's rugged and it's trusted. You can go in the wilderness, but at the same time, it has this fun, carefree, like I can really just go off road and just do whatever with it, right? So Momo, I guess my question to you is, when you think of Bellroy, what are the first 2 words that you associate in your mind with Bellroy?
I mean, the first, minimal and intentional. I mean, those are the first couple words that really come to my mind.
Technically, aren't those like the same thing, kind of?
Minimal is like, okay, it's like small, but intentional is like, okay, when they make things that carry larger items and it's not really minimal, it's intentional. Do you get what I'm saying? So I'd say they're 2 different words, but
it can be intentionally complex, Cheema.
Yeah, it can be intentionally complex. Yeah,
like IBM and Microsoft.
First of all, you guys are Microsoft haters, but no, like, come on. For me, Mac was more complicated, right?
Oh yeah.
Because I didn't grow up using. I actually didn't use the internet until I was like 10. So technically, whatever. So maybe I'm not the standard of computer knowledge, but for me, every time I use a Mac, because it's just so much more complicated. I think the reason like a Mac is so useful is just purely because of the ecosystem that it provides, right, with the rest of the Apple products. But yeah, you're just hating.
Minimal and what? Intentional?
I forgot. Yeah, minimal and intentional.
I think one of them. My unsolicited advice, Cheema. You didn't ask me the question, but I feel like longevity is like a big thing. I'm like on their website. I'm just like catching up with a lot of
longevity. Yeah, stories. Longevity
is their thing. Like, they're like, man, this $180 that you're gonna pay for this wallet. I don't know what the actual price was.
Yeah,
like it's gonna take you a long way.
And they're like, yeah, we have a 3-year warranty, for any manufacturer problems or anything like that. And then what they do is they even show you like when they post pictures on their website or whatever, they show you pictures of a wallet that's 1,000 days old. Like, that's literally how they say 1,000 days old, right? Which is around 3-year mark. And they show you like, still hold it up, still looks nice. And it's actually, to some people, it looks nicer because it has that aging, right? That leather gets that like gives it character, right? It gives it a story. And they're like, we want to hear your Bellroy stories. And I'm like, damn, I wish I had a sick story, but I didn't. I was like, I want to submit something. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think longevity is something that's huge for them, and it's something that I think their products actually achieve.
So when I thought of it, the 2 words that I came across were durable and innovative. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Durable sounds like it, man. I really got to buy one of their wallets to determine this, because I know all my wallets have been maximum lifetime has been like 1 year, 2 years. And I've had like Tommy Hilfiger, Ralph Lauren. Those are my 2 higher ends, and then I've had like Walmart brand or something.
Yeah, and all those wallets usually do end up like dying out, right? This is I have this wallet here. It's my old wallet that I don't use anymore, but Like I was using it for 3 years, and like it's like I was still using it up until the day I bought a new wallet. Like it was working fine. It aged, it had this character. Like you can tell, like I was on the thicker end, right? Like of wallet use.
Bring it to the camera a little bit.
I was on the thicker end. Like you see, there's like some character right there, like
Yeah,
the cards. You can see the cards. So I remember my number got imprinted on the leather, like at some point, right? Like, and it obviously it's not there anymore, but it had a story, right? Every scratch like it had a story, and it just made me kind of appreciate the craftsmanship more that it lasted this long, and I didn't have any problems with it. And then the pull tab still worked, right? Like like that's one of their design details. Like they have a pull tab that allows you to access your cards easier, even though it's a leather wallet, which usually they don't come with those things like that. And I think like what they did is that they made a good job making you wanting to break it in and use it more, right? Because like you guys were discussing this in the Bronco episode, right? Like you're not going to do anything to a car but add miles to it, right?
Yeah,
So then you might as well get rewarded for it, right? So then what they do with this is they're like, oh, you get rewarded because look, it has character, it has a story. This wallet's been with you for 3, 4, 5 years. It's seen through this, it fell in water, whatever. They had a story of some dude lost his wallet in snow and then found it after the snow melted, things like that, right? Like you have a story with your wallet, right? So they made you appreciate the longevity, which is traditionally something that's looked down on products, right? How old they are. You want the newest, latest thing. And again, it's one of those like pushes for minimalism and intentional buying and making sure that like, you use your product to the fullest type of idea that they keep pushing.
By the way, so before we move on to the next discussion point, I want to just say, Abdul Mannan, you mentioned that the 2 listeners to this podcast. I just want to clarify because Momo is actually on this one for this podcast. We'll only have 1 listener.
There's just one other person. I'm gonna listen to it, so I'll still listen to this.
Back at 2, yeah.
But all right. Next thing I want to talk about is identity. Within identity, we want to talk about product, organization, person, and symbol. We already talked about product a lot. I don't want to beat a dead horse. We talked about how Bellroy makes products that reduce clutter and really make the whole everyday carry experience even better. I want to talk about organization. So the company itself, it prides itself on being design driven. It's a B Corp. Momo, can you give us some insight on the company itself and what their values are?
So, I mean, like you said, yeah, it's a B Corp, and it's basically what that means is that it's a business that uses their business for good, right? It's a group of certified companies using the power of business to help solve social and environmental problems, right? So what they do is they're very intentional about how they recycle and how they use their products and how they get rid of their products, and it's just one of those like companies that again pushes that this is like you're spending your money on something that's good and solid.
A lot of companies will just have cliche mission statements and stuff like that, but if you look at Bellroy, it's clear that they actually try to actually execute to their mission. So here's what I saw on their website. It says, inspire better ways to carry, use business as a force of good, help the world and our crew flourish, right? That's their mission. That's why Bellroy exists. So I think that's something that if you're a consumer that's a little bit hesitant about spending $80 on a wallet, you go on the website, you read their values, and now you feel like, hey, these people are actually doing something good for the world. And now I don't mind spending an extra 20, 30 bucks, 40 bucks, whatever it may be, versus your regular wallet to support this company that's doing good. Next thing I want to talk about is the people behind Bellroy, like the founders, that also plays an important role in a brand's identity, right? So who started Bellroy? What's their story? What do they do? What's their specialty?
So yeah, it was like a group of 4 people, and there were some designers and engineers that kind of just found that, like we discussed earlier, they found a problem in the carry space, and then they started making products for that. Well designed because they're designers, and well thought out, right? Because some of them were engineers. So then they're still a small company, relatively. They only have like 100 employees. So they're still a very relatively small company, but yeah, it was just a group of designers and engineers that got together, found that there was a problem, and created the Carryology and then went on to create Bellroy.
Yeah, and that fits in line with their whole how they've positioned themselves as design driven and very design focused, right? So that makes a lot of sense. Last thing within brand identity is the symbol, right? Which is their logo. Abdul Mannan, I'll be completely honest. When I first saw this logo, I could not figure it out because I'm thinking leather goods. And immediately when I think of leather goods, I think of classy. And for classy, you're always going to have a serif logo, right?
Yeah.
That's my understanding of it. But what's interesting here is that Bellroy actually has a sans serif logo, and it's playful almost, right? So can you talk me through their logo?
Yeah, there's there's a couple different elements to their logo. So it's an image and a text. There's typography. There's two elements to it, and I think you're talking about the typography. Generally, yeah, you're right. Serif tends to be with luxury, premium, classic type brands, and has that kind of usage. I think what they were going for, and this is my hypothesis, is that they're really sticking to their values, which is intentionality and uniqueness. Right? They're in a space that has a lot of the market is like filled with like products, right? Wallets, cases, bags, whatever. And so if they're going to try to be unique about it, I think their logo does a great job reflecting that, because they took a sans serif font and they added these small little elements to them. They took away parts of the sans serif font to make it a unique font in and of itself. I'm not sure if they have their own Bellroy font. It doesn't look like they do, because otherwise I'd probably see it more on their website, I'm assuming. But in terms of their logo, they stuck to their roots by making it unique. And so they took elements of a basic sans serif font and made it unique. And I think it really reflects their brand values really well. One thing I did want to mention is the elements that they changed on the sans serif font are such that they lend towards a more luxury brand, meaning they went for pointy edges. They went for like the sharp cutting, precise definitions on their letters to make it feel still like a classical and luxury brand. But at the same time, they're communicating their uniqueness by altering like a sans serif font. So that's what I had on the typography.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I never looked at it like that. Momo, were you saying something?
Yeah, one of the things I found about the logo is that one of their brand directors and their sales director, in one of their interviews, I mentioned like somebody asked about like why an owl is your logo, and they said there's an element of owls being wise. And one of the major things we notice is that owls can be found in every continent around the world. We kind of see ourselves in that light. And hey, owls are cool and everyone loves them. And then the sales director said, one of the ideas that drives Bellroy is the idea of being a global citizen and being able to provide solutions for people anywhere in the world. I think it's more of a cop-out, really, but maybe that was the intention behind the owl. I think it was just like a cool element.
Yeah, I read another interview where the founder was like, "Man, don't like." He said something like, "Owls are really rad." Or it was like, how rad are owls really? He's just like, owls are cool, man. So I want that in my logo.
That's what I just think they thought it was cool, and they're like, how can we make this a cool story?
And that can be part of your brand too. You don't have to be so intentional with everything that everything has to have meaning, but you can develop the brand and then attach certain values to it after. There's a lot of brands that do that. You probably just don't know about it, but a lot of it is after the fact sometimes. And we were talking about it on the Bronco episode too. I think it's like their goat mode, right? They called a goat before like goat became a thing, right? They called it goes over all terrains before they realized that goat also stands for greatest of all time. But they embraced it, and so to embrace certain values, a brand can do that and still be authentic to its original values. And I think we were talking about it with Chris Cheema, where I was asking him about Launchgood, and this is obviously a different topic, but one of the things he said was that we go where the money's at. If remember, one of the elements of a brand is that it's a reputation that people have, and so you can have various different reputations among in people's minds. And so If the reputation is, goes towards one direction, for example, in Launch's case, if it goes towards, charitable organization, then you can take that brand, take that value and run with it and add it to your value system. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I think that's really important that you mentioned that. I think a lot of people may get so caught up in making sure that everything has meaning, everything has some kind of symbolic, intentional reasoning behind it, that they become crippled and they actually don't end up making anything, right? So don't, if you just like something, there's nothing wrong with just kind of running with it, you know what I mean, and then figuring it out later.
Yeah.
I
A lot of
know.
design is intuition. There's an intuitive element to it. It's like, this looks right, this doesn't look right, and it goes into, like, one thing I started learning a little bit about typography, but like, a lot of the letters, when you make them based on the basic shapes they don't look right. Their alignment is off and stuff like that. And so designers of typography actually make adjustments to that, to make it visually appealing. And you really can't tell what it is, except that fact that this X, for example, looks better than this X, which is simply two crosses put together. So it's definitely intentional in that sense. But yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if we should bring this up, but I'm sure you guys saw the article about how the Drake OVO owl and this owl look resoundingly similar.
Yeah, I saw the article. I think, I looked at it, and I remember actually when somebody looked at my, I feel like I'm being weird, but my Bellroy keychain, I have a Bellroy keychain, and they looked, is that like a Drake keychain? I was like, no. I don't, like I was mad. I was like, no, this is, like, I was like, man, I paid money for this to be a Bellroy product, not a Drake product, So then, and then people were like, is that Drake? I'm like, no, it's not. It's Bellroy. And then at that point, I can't even do my pitch anymore. I can't be like, yeah, it's Bellroy. They make cool designs and stuff. It's just like, yeah, it's not Drake,
I mean,
So,
I feel like you can still transition, whatever, just pitch it if you really feel.
No, man. Hey, I think it's really important what he mentioned is that, like, he paid money to be part of this tribe, and now you think I'm part of some other tribe.
Yeah, like, I'm not even a big Drake fan like that, man. Man's a culture vulture, and then now you're thinking like I'm a big Drake fan. That guy's keychain, and I was pissed.
So one of the things that there's this great, very famous logo designer, Sagi Haviv, who designed the logo for like BP, the oil company, National Geographic. He designed like Planet Earth, or Nature Planet or something like that. One of the things that he says when he's presenting his logos, right, is right off the bat in the beginning, very beginning of the of his logo presentation pitch, he lists off a few different things, like disclaimers. And one of the disclaimers he says is that I'm not going to listen to any feedback that says, well, this logo kind of looks like ... Like, right off the bat in the beginning of his presentation, he's not going to take that as any sort of feedback from his client. And I thought that's so interesting, because it doesn't, like, just because something looks like something else doesn't mean that it's going to perform poorly as a logo or as a visual identity for a brand. And that's something really important to keep in mind as well. So I'm sure that these guys got that lawsuit by Drake. They probably figured it out. They probably had enough of a story. Well, I don't know about how it works in like branding and marketing and strategy, but in terms of the healthcare field, if you're going to sue a physician, usually people sue physicians based on incompetence, and you need to prove incompetence. And so if you are to apply this to a marketing or brand story, I guess Drake would have to prove that they stole the design. And I don't know what the result of that litigation or lawsuit was, but I'm sure they were able to get out of it because they have a strong enough story.
Last couple of things I wanted to talk about were the actual experience on the website, and also the ads. I wanted to make sure we talk about the ads a little bit more in depth, and then also just the whole website experience. So, Abdul Mannan, I want to get your thoughts here. In terms of advertising and the actual web experience, you see a lot of different colors. How was that experience like for you as someone that is a designer? Like, what are you thinking when you're going through this website?
One of the things I noticed right away is, like you said, they have very an interesting palette of colors that they choose from. And when you're thinking about the colors for any brand, there's two things you can do. You can choose to be very different, or you can choose to align with the color palette of your product, or like the solution that you're trying to provide. And so I noticed that a lot of their colors, they've picked from the space of baggage and wallet, and that sort of product space. They've picked elements and colors from that to make that their brand's visual identity. So that's what I kind of see here, and I really like it because it's not in your face, which is exactly what they're trying to be. They're trying to provide a solution to something that's not really a problem that's in your face, but it's a problem in your life. And so I really like that about their coloring and visual identity. And then one thing that you mentioned off air was that they don't have a lot of pictures of people associated with their visual identity. Their advertisements are all product, and it again lends to what they're trying to convey. They're trying to convey their solution, and nothing else beyond that. And it's been working, right? You said their advertisements have been going on for 7 years.
Yeah,
those are some initial thoughts.
Yeah, and they've stayed consistent, I think, as well. Like the thing with the advertising is they've updated some of the graphics or the videos, but the message really stayed the same, right? They show you the problem, solve it, or show you like something that looks better than what you're currently carrying, or functions better than what you're currently carrying, and makes you desire it. And
picking colors from, getting inspiration from your environment around you is an important step in developing your visual identity. Because if you think about it, a lot of companies do that. Netflix is one that comes to mind, like the dark black that they use. It reminds you of like a theater environment with the bright red as like the red carpet type of thing for celebrities and stuff. When you think about other brands like Chase, for example, bank companies, they tend to rely on blue executive style colors that you see in executive environments and stuff like that. And so drawing inspiration from your environment or from the space that you're providing a solution in is a really good way to develop a visual identity.
One thing that I did want to mention on this subject is that when I go to their website, when I look at their ads, let me back up. When I look at wallets, when I think of my own wallet, it's like it's washed out. It's like there's no defining color on it. It's like I've been using it for so long.
Was it black or was it brown?
It was brown, but it's like, yeah, it's like at this point, I have no idea what it was supposed to be when it was first. And what's interesting about these products is they're very vibrant colors. Like even the black is like a very thick black. Even the brown, the gray, it's very distinct colors. And so it really shows you that it's not, it's a fresh take on this. You know what I mean? That's the impression you get when you're watching one of their ads, is that you have all these colors with a product that you generally may not, at least for me, may not associate colors with. Like I don't associate colors with a wallet. Like I don't associate vibrant, fresh, new with these kind of products. And so they, like even in their advertising, like you said, there's two things that really stood out to me in their advertising. Number one is that they used stop motion videos with no words, no person talking on camera, nothing. It's just literally the product in use in stop motion. And in addition to the stop motion, they had very vibrant colors every single time. And usually the way they did it is, if I remember correctly, is that before the Bellroy product came in, the colors were a little bit more dull. And then when the Bellroy product came in, it just kind of started flashing a little bit more. Pop came in, that kind of thing. So, and a lot of the time, even when the product comes in, the music comes in.
Yeah. You know, exactly. Like before that is dull, is gray. It's like it's not vibrant. But then the product comes in, the music comes in. You're like, wow, it's lit. You know.
So it's almost as if they're saying, without actually, of course, saying it, they're saying is like, look, you need to freshen up your life. You need some color in your life. Like having this is going to make your life vibrant. You know what I mean? Like it's going to change your life. And they've really done a good job with both their website and their advertising, where as someone that's watching, as someone that's looking at their stuff, like you feel like, man, I'm really missing out on something. You know what I mean? Like I really have a problem. And even me, who I am not interested in the wallet game at all, but just by doing research on this, I'm like, man, like this is a really cool wallet. You know what I mean? So those are my thoughts on that. Abdul Mannan, Momo, any other thoughts before we kind of close up?
I think you mentioned you bring a good point that like again like it makes you want to buy like and that's successful. And I think one thing that they do that keeps that value is, like I mentioned earlier, which is one thing, is that they're never having sales thing, right? And never marking down their prices. And I'm one of those people that doesn't like to pay full price. But then what that does is that it makes you like, this is the quality that, and this is the price that we demand for this quality, right?
One of the things that we usually talk about on the podcast is like, you know, any sort of partnerships that we think like would be beneficial for the company. And they've already made partnerships with Patagonia and some other companies, but I think I'd definitely like them to see like some sort of partnerships with universities where students have that, you know, disposable income to use on a product like, for example, bags. You know, so to see it in a university campus bookstore, for example, I'd be like, oh, wow, you know, I kind of want to buy this, as opposed to the regular Under Armour random bag or like, I don't know, Nike bag or something like that. I want to see like a Bellroy. I think that would be a good place for them to explore. So Bellroy, if you're listening, you know, consider that. All right, Momo. We appreciate you and your time. We're about to wrap up this podcast. One of the new things that we're starting with the way we wrap it up, I don't know if you heard on the Republican episode, but we like to ask our guests, if we have them on an episode, what their favorite brand is right now. Obviously, you know, we talked a lot about Bellroy, so you're going to have to pick something else. Or least favorite brand right now, for whatever reason.
Least favorite, I can hit you with least favorite right now. Least favorite right now is probably Figs. just because of what's happening with them right now. Besides the whole marketing, you know, thing, the scandal that's going on.
Let's pause for a second here. Let's pause for a second. For the audience that's listening, Momo used to be one of the biggest fans of Figs. Just want to make that.
Yeah. I mean, I was a pretty big fan of Figs, and I have a couple pairs of scrubs. But some of the allegations that are coming out against their company that they haven't spoken against are like wild. Like, you know how they had the threads for threads thing. Mm-hmm. Some people are saying like that's not even like a thing. You know, they're just trying to make bread, and how they use somebody's image without really his consent, things like that. Like just kind of like shady business practices that takes away from the credibility and the value of a company, all right? So kind of that's my least favorite right now. And then my favorite brand, I think I talked about it already, is Bellroy. So.
Pick another one.
Favorite brand right now?
Is there one that compares to your loyalty with Bellroy?
Loyalty with Bellroy? No. There's no other brand that I have as many products of. Just because I like that brand, like none, right? The only thing right now, like a brand that I liked that was good, was like OnePlus, the phone manufacturer. Mm-hmm. But even that, because their earlier on brand philosophy that they had of and marketing philosophy of like undercutting competition, things like that. But now like they're moving on beyond that space, so it's not even my favorite brand anymore. So
got it.
Momo, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming out. Really had a good discussion. I enjoyed this thoroughly. Let's do this again sometime.
Let's do it again, man.